Good evening. This is the Raleigh Finance Committee meeting of March 29th, and the time is 7:17. Call the meeting to order. And we're going to, since we have Chief Broderick here, jump right to the fire department budget. And I think we've all reviewed this. We've discussed it.
I'm
and
leaving
you're
the
going
room.
to
For a
recruit
relative on the
yourself.
department.
And you can just give us an update on it.
Sure. It's has a pay increase for the fire chief and the call firefighters. And the original paperwork that I gave you a couple of weeks ago, the call wages were bumped up slightly more since then. And the reason for that is I have a third potential candidate to join the call force, and for him to go to the class, I needed the extra funds to pay for his training. So what it ended up doing was adding about $6,000, I think it was, because I don't have the old form in front of me, to the call wage line. The full-time wage line is 0% increase because they're in the middle of contract negotiations right now. And as soon as they're done with that, then I guess in the fall we'll take care of that. The expenses are level funded again this year as it was last year, so there's no increase in the expense line. It's about a $10,000 increase, a little less than $10,000 increase over last year's request of $465,121. It's gone up to $475,924 this year.
475,921,
924.
and that's not what,
I have 473.
No, I have 473, 368.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, that's probably the right one then. I've got the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
I have 475, 924.
This was dated March 3rd.
All right, there's an
Right.
updated one.
This one that,
Oh,
we
okay.
copied that has a big email at the top, revised
Oh,
fire
okay,
department budget.
okay.
Um,
And then there was some issues as far as the repairs and things like that, but
Right.
all that's gonna be on a separate,
Correct, at the special town meeting.
special town meeting
And
article.
the other thing that we were able to do is, there was stuff that was purchased for the ladder truck out of my expense line early in the year that we were able to transfer to the fire truck appropriation because it was specific to the ladder truck. So that was able to give my expense budget about a $7,000 bump. So I think right now, with what we've discussed, we should have enough money to make it through the year. We'll know a little bit more come May whether I have to ask for a slight transfer, but I think the big crisis has been averted
Good.
Right.
with what we've been able to do between transferring some money from one account to the other, and then the special town meeting article to take care of some of the other issues.
I've got one. Okay, any other questions or so for the chief? Okay. Get back to this. I have a motion for the fire department
I will
budget.
make that motion.
Jamie?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
No, you can second it.
I'll second it. That's fine.
Okay, Dennis seconds. Any other discussion on the fire department budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 ayes and none recused. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
for sure.
Sorry to pull you in,
Oh,
but
that's okay. I don't mind.
appreciate it.
Good
See you
night.
later. Have fun.
I know.
Okay. Why don't we quick tackle the minutes of the meeting? And then we can go back to fund and budgets. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes for
Okay.
March 15.
Good. No, I have a couple. Oh, here we are.
motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion. I only had one comment. Actually,
Right.
it's two. Dennis's name was spelt wrong in paragraph 10. That's not a big deal. Is it? But on the last page, where it says, Mr. Jalbert moved to close the joint meeting, Ms. Emery second, instead of seconded. It says
Okay.
seconded throughout, so it should be changed.
Okay, so with those two changes, any other changes?
No, I have no other ones.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes with those two changes? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Sharon. Any other discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I recuse, I'm recusing myself.
Okay, one recuse. Minutes are accepted. And let's go to the budgets. First one on our list is the hydrants from last week.
I had some issues with that, and I don't know if Mary Beth got back. I sent a message to all of you folks, my comments over the weekend, and Debbie in turn forwarded them, I think maybe just yesterday, to Mary Beth. But to me, this doesn't make sense. Like, the math doesn't add up. And I was wondering if, I saw your message too, Larry, that you sent, was it to Mary Beth? You sent an email to her, or?
When? What?
I want to say yesterday or Sunday.
You sent us an email.
Maybe you sent us then? It was after I sent my
Yeah,
message out to
you thought
everybody.
maybe they were going to level fund
Oh,
it.
yes. They haven't voted on that this evening. I had to leave the meeting. She did, and there's just, I gave you one in your packet this evening, a letter from them outlining more of the expenses on the fire hydrant rental to come up with the 182.27 or so. When I did talk with her Friday, she was going to present to the board a request to go back to the 53,400, but that hasn't, when I left, they hadn't gotten to that point yet. But she had answered some of the questions in the letter that I gave you this evening, as far as what some of the other costs are in other towns, and more of a justification for the 182.27. So,
Debbie, did you ever hear anything from Mary Beth about the hydrants?
I sent over your analysis of a report. I didn't hear anything back. I know they've been very busy over there. So I don't know if she just didn't have time or what.
Okay. This is what we were given last week from the water department.
Right.
And if you look at just the math, like going across, for example, the labor rate, the first thing, 1956 times .048, and they used 400 as the basis for the number of hydrants. And that's how they arrived at that amount. And I'm looking for my hydrants. Can I just see yours for a minute, Jamie? The number that they have here, the 72.9, they arrived at that by multiplying 400 hydrants times, I have that math. The new rental fee amount of 72,900 is divided by 400 equals exactly 182.25. So that's where that 72,900 that they proposed for
Right.
next year comes from. And my question on that, as I went through this, is that the numbers here is if you go across And for example, the first one, 1956 times .48 times 400, it comes out as a little less on the first entry. The same thing for the second and third entries. The fourth entry actually comes in a little higher. But the thing that I had a real issue with was where it says replacement of hydrants average 5 a year. And it says the cost for a hydrant is $2,000 each, but they didn't factor in the cost, the $2,000 cost of each hydrant. So when you multiply 1956 times 4, and it should be times 5 hydrants, it only comes up to $391.20
right.
instead of $31,296. So this is just a little more than 1% of what they have in this column. So
Right.
that's way off. And and this doesn't really add up to here. Another thing, when I did the same thing for the very bottom, where it says the annual cost per hydrant per year, it says $124.30 for the labor rate times 18.24, and that would be times 400 again. I get a total of $90,689.28. So I really don't know where that how they arrived at that 72.9. And if anything, I think this is way over. And maybe it can remain the way it was the fiscal year 16. Or maybe that 53,000 amount instead, but I think that this is way over unless they can justify that, what they're proposing for next year.
Right.
I had the same concerns too when I took this sheet, which was the backup to the number that they supposedly had in the budget. I did the same thing. I saw the math errors, but I also
Yeah.
questioned, I guess, the method of how they came up with these numbers. Because, like, for example, the painting. If you got 3755, which is basically the corrected math, they don't paint the hydrants every year. So this is supposed to be an annual cost.
Correct.
So I'm thinking if you paint a hydrant, and I used every 5 years, so I would take that 3755, divide it by 5, and it only comes up to $751.
Yeah.
That's what they should be putting in there for painting of hydrants. Same thing for flushing. They had 11,000. The corrected number I think is 11,658, and I divided that by 3 because they don't flush every hydrant every year. They do, and I'm probably giving them a little bit of the benefit there. I think they do one every 10 or so. But if I say one every 3, you divide that number by 3, you come up with $3,886 instead of the
But
$11,658.
they flush more than once a year.
Yep. Well, I understand that. When you get down to the rest of it here, that works out. I multiplied it out times 2. So I took their rate, their labor rate, times the hourly rate, and then divided it by 3. It's far less than the 11,658 that they've got here. The flushing operator, they had a corrected total of 15,794, and again I took that number and divided it by 3, come up with a total of 5265 instead of 15,000. Now the fire flow testing, which they do twice a year, 40 hydrants, using the numbers here, I took the labor rate of 1956 is what she's used above, times 1.49 times 80, figuring 2 times a year. It comes to 2332. Plus, I took the 6,000 that she had for, I guess, the contractor. I don't know if that's a contractor charge of 6,000. When you add those two numbers together, I came up with $8,332 versus the $9,388. Now, Paul, you had something higher.
What I
but-
did, what I
Right.
did on that, Dennis, is I multiplied the 1956 times 10 and a half hours, and times 400, and I got 8215. So your number's a little higher. And it does say this is twice a year, and then it says, oh,
Yeah.
should I double this amount? But if I did, it didn't, it was way out of the ballpark. So she must have, what she specified, it's twice a year. So,
So it's somewhere between your number and my number, I guess. But it's, and then when you get down to miscellaneous maintenance, I came up with a labor. She had $1,956, and when you take the labor rate of $392, which you calculated, Paul, and I agree with that, and then you add $10,000 to it because that is basically,
For the 5 hydrants.
yeah, 5 hydrants
Yeah,
times 2.
even if you add that in, it's still way above the number they have.
Yeah, it comes down to 10,392.
Right.
So, and then if you look at the last one on the overhead, some of the stuff that's listed there, cost of parts and supplies, purchase of fire hydrants, is up above here anyway. It's included in the other items that are listed here. So I just took the 0 that she had there, and if you add the corrected numbers that I feel it should be closer to, it comes to like 29,722. That's what I think is probably close to where the number should be. Now that seems to be fairly close to the 35.6 that's been in the budget since, well, we got here FY13 through FY16.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that is probably a closer number. Now, I see the report that we got tonight regarding other towns that, like Everett and Boston and some
Yeah.
of these bigger
Right.
towns. I went on the internet myself just before we came to the meeting. I didn't have enough time to research. I tried like 7 towns. I couldn't find Newburyport, its actual number. I don't know where she got that number, but I did get Newbury's, and they're charging $65 a hydrant a year. That's their fee, and I've got the backup on here for
That's
that.
1/3.
Yeah,
they
so I
have
mean,
proposed.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that this number
It's way
is
over.
troubling, because if it's similar to the water rates, where they should have raised it in prior years and then eventually get up to whatever number that it should be, then I don't think the town should be taking that hard hit in 1 year. Especially when the Tate and Howard report, if you look at that had projected for even this year and next year to be level funded at the 35,600.
Right.
So I guess I'm confused why the report that was done by the water department, that the water rates are based on, level funded that, but yet we have, a higher number, and it's significant. It's not just a small number. Even the 53 troubles me,
Correct.
but to
'cause
go to
it's-
72 is just, something get missed there. So.
It's been 35.6 through fiscal years 13 through, including 16. And then there is the note, it says that the actual fiscal year 16 cost was 53.4. So I don't know why it went up 18,000 more than was appropriated. And then now all of a sudden it says they want to add another 19.5. They want a warrant seeking the balance to bring it to 72.9. So I think we need some more information on
Right,
this.
well, it was the 35.6 for a lot of years, only because, before then, you had a different water system, and you had people that really weren't looking at the hydrant costs. They just put down a number probably,
But I hope that number doesn't include the treatment plant, because I don't think the hydrants need treated water.
No, but my point being is that with the treatment,
They're getting treated water.
Yeah, no, I know they are, but it's not necessary for the hydrants to have treated water to come out of it. They need just water.
right, but I mean,
But they can't
we-
get water unless all the water goes through the treatment
Yeah, but
plant.
we don't have to pay for that. I don't think that should be the town's responsibility to
Well,
pay for that.
the point I was trying to make is not whether the water is treated or not, came from the treatment plant, is with the treatment plant, they got a supervisor that had knowledge and experience in running a water department. The previous people didn't have the water experience, so when she came on board, probably kept the 35.6 because there were other problems that had to be dealt with, getting the water treatment plant up and running. So I can't back too much or put too much faith on the 35.6 as an accurate number. It was just a number, and I don't think we should look at it as an
I
accurate
think it
number.
was just a number they pulled out of
But-
the air.
Right.
But the Tate and Howard report included that number.
Right,
And
but they didn't have any backup for that number. That was a number that was given to them, type of a thing. And it's such a small number that I'm sure that they didn't question the validity of it.
Well,
But
that questions me, that gives me the question as to whether that, how good that Tate and Howard report actually is, if they were basing rates on numbers that aren't true and accurate. So,
I think we should still table this and wait till we get the feedback just the same, because this needs to be redone, in my opinion, because a number of these lines going across are for all 400 hydrants, and then this one in particular, which is the big number, is only for 5 hydrants, and they used the 400 hydrants to make this calculation, because it comes out exactly to the 72.9, and it really I'm sorry, to the 31,296. So they really, if they're using only 5 hydrants, they need to, 391 versus 31,296 is a huge difference. And so this line here is based on only 5, and the others are based on 400, and then it does affect the annual cost. And like Dennis said, if in Newbury the cost is $62 or whatever, 65, that's 1/3. It seems like this is really excessively high based on the information that was given. So maybe if they look at this again, maybe they'll realize that an error or some errors were made, and it will modify this total cost.
I don't think you can base anything on Newbury. They have a very small water system. A lot of their water comes from Newburyport. Half the town doesn't have hydrants.
well, that question, that's even more question why we have this number from Newburyport if it's actually 2 towns versus 1 town. I'm not sure. And I guess we have to try to compare apples to apples, and that's hard to do with just a number without any backup behind it. So,
Yeah.
I take this lightly, but I don't take it heavily. The other thing too, on the town side, for years, we're billing the water department for accounting fees, treasurer collector fees, and audit fees in the amount of $11,198, and that was back in FY07. And even up to this year, it's now only $10,142. I don't know why that's went down, but if we're making adjustments here, then we probably should be looking at the fees that we're charging the water department. I'm certain that the 10,000 number would not be 10,000 anymore. It might be significantly more, because those are fees that we need to recoup because of the treasurer collected her time, and the auditors and the accounting fees that haven't been changed in 10 years. So there's an adjustment that needs to be made there to offset their rate changes.
Yeah, Debbie, if
No.
for some reason we recommended that we didn't do this thing, it's already figured into their budget, isn't it?
Yep, the
yes,
70
we've already approved
72
Yeah,
their
we've already
budget
approved
with the
their budget, yeah.
72.9,
Yeah.
okay, and the selectmen have already
You don't
approved
approve their revenue plan though. That's an informational table that goes in the warrant. You're approving their expense budget. So more or less, they have to set their revenues, and that's what the water board's authority is. So they can kind of balance that out. You're not approving their water rates and their other
Yeah.
charges.
So what we're doing is just discussing
Yeah,
that
I understand.
a shortfall in their revenues and not their expenses.
Is that because then of that 19,500, which would be an article for town meeting?
19.
Well, the shortfall for this
That's for this year.
This year,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
what
yeah.
happened was last year, I didn't have the hydrants, and the new number, it didn't get into the budget. And I didn't realize that till after town meeting, and actually Sue Bailey had reminded me, and I said, oh, that's right, they raised that to 53, so I have to have an article on the town meeting, special town meeting warrant to transfer money into the hydrant line to cover this.
Why would the town have to be responsible for that? I know,
We're
town
gonna
meeting.
get an invoice from the water department to pay for the hydrants, and I don't have the funds for this 53,000
Okay,
figure,
the 19.5 difference.
yeah. Finance
The water
committee's gonna have to
department
take
the
a
water
position
department-
on that article.
The water
Right.
department can't absorb that through their stabilization fund.
That question hasn't really been posed to them,
I guess I just kind of concerned that when everybody agreed on the 35.6, and all of a sudden we get bills above and beyond that and I don't know what the bill
Well,
looked like and
I
what
think it was just, when I was doing the omnibus budget, I didn't, factor in that new one, and I never picked up on that new hydrant amount that was in their revenue table in the town meeting warrant. I think that's how it happened. I kept going back, trying to figure that out.
See, even then, for like fiscal years 13, 14, and before that, there's a flat figure there. But if you look at the per hydrant cost, hydrants were added in those years, which isn't reflected in that 35,600 figure. So,
Well, it might have. I mean, there's something had to come up, add to that 35.6. It could have been hydrants in there, There's something that was missed, but it might not have been hydrants.
I doubt very seriously, because when I've been on the finance committees since 2013, and there was nothing, there was no discussion on the hydrants, and in fact, I don't think they even knew how many hydrants they had.
No, I do disagree with that. Many years
Okay.
ago, before you were on the finance committee,
Okay.
I would speak to Water Superintendent John Reza and just get the number updated, because we had a number of subdivisions that came on that were being accepted, so there'd be new roads that the town would take over, including hydrants. So he had a formula, and he just gave me the number, and it, in this, I'm talking
But
like
that's
10 years
implying
ago.
that,
10 years
okay,
ago or so.
yeah.
So he had something. I didn't, get into the mathematics, but he did have a record of the hydrants. He knew, because he always said, anytime you're gonna have a road accepted, please let me know, because, the infrastructure of the road, the water mains and the hydrant become property of the town once we accept those. So I know he was calculating something, and I'm talking about 10 years ago, probably. Towards the end, when he was here, I don't recall, other than he just, I think, simple conversations, no, the hydrants are all set, just same as last year or something.
I'd like to see hear some explanation as to how it went from 35 to 53 to 72. I mean, there had to be something that significantly happened in the last 2 years, and I know the water department has changed a lot, but there's no explanation that we have here that kind of justifies those increases.
Right.
So whether it's a different format that has to come in or different explanation, I think I, as one member of the finance committee, I don't know where the number should be. I mean, certainly we want to make sure that we're paying our fair share for hydrant rental fees, but without, accurate backup, or, just numbers thrown at us all over the place here that don't add up to any of these numbers, I don't feel comfortable in voting in any increase until we get that answer. I mean, it's the town's money. I mean, that's roughly,
Yeah, that's, when I saw that
that's almost
math,
double. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
Right.
that's
And that's why I
35 grand.
had
I mean, this year we
concerns.
can use every dime that we have, and the water department's doing a great job. We don't want to,
No.
certainly, I know we voted their budget, but when you see a number like that, it's our duty to ask, what the change is and how they got to it, and I don't think, in my mind, that we've got the answer here that I feel comfortable with.
I'm not throwing stones at the water department at all, either, Larry. It's just that I think a clarification, because the numbers really don't add up. And if, maybe it's a simple clarification or explanation,
Right.
we'll be fine with it.
Well, what we can do is ask for some more clarification, and we can just have well, we can't do a recommendation from the floor because this is part of the budget. But we really can't postpone the budget or hold up the budget for
We
the
could
information.
vote a number if that's the bottom line, and we got to push the shove. whether it's 35.6 or 53 or some number in between, and then they could at least operate through part of the year, and then, not that we'd like to go to the special town meeting in the fall to add to this or adjust it, but I suppose we could do it, you know, in the fall to make any corrections that we need to make if we don't have the information before us tonight. I mean, I don't wanna do that either, so I don't know whether we
Right.
can get the information that we need.
I don't know whether we could do it in a timely manner, though.
I mean, you mean, you know, just looking at my numbers, like I said, I come up with 29,722, I'm not even near 53.
Right,
And I mean, I could be wrong, I'm certainly not saying that my calculations are right, but I certainly know that they don't paint hydrants every year.
Right.
And, you know, so these are 400 hydrants, which really gotta divide it by the number of years that it takes to paint a hydrant, so, et cetera, all the way down.
It might be just the way that this was stated and what was given to us. Like I said, some of these lines are based on 400 hydrants, another one is based on 5, and maybe it's just the way it's, and then, for example, when it says where you do replace 5 hydrants a year, the cost of a hydrant is $2,000 each. Where are they putting that $10,000? Is that included in that $31,296? If it is, then my math would say that that's $10,391 to replace 5 hydrants.
Yeah, that's what I
That's
had.
still 20,000
Yep.
more that is shown here.
right.
So, I mean, we are supposed to be, you know, trying to watch the town expenses. We have all kinds of projects, you know, the police, a fire station, the schools, the employees, you know, need salary increases from time to time. So it's like, you know, if there are errors possibly in this, we should at least try to find them and just get an explanation of how they calculated this.
Could we, as part of our discussion here, also maybe get an update on the accounting fees, the treasurer collectors and audit fees, just to see, you know, if we should be increasing our bill to them in, you know, larger than 10,142? I mean, that'd be something that the treasurer could do, I would imagine.
I would assume that the treasurer had already figured out what she needed. What she does, maybe with
Well-
Mary Beth and the administrative assistant, they aren't using her as much.
Well, the thing
The-
is, it hasn't changed in 10 years, and I
But
know
the bills-
their salaries have changed in
The
10
bills
years.
used to all come through the treasurer.
Yep.
They don't anymore. She doesn't do that.
Okay, so then maybe that,
You mean the
maybe
billing.
that should come out. I'm not sure, but all I'm saying
Right.
is, something's changed in 10 years, and whether it's up or down, we should update that as well, if we're updating on the other end.
I'm just not optimistic I can get this by next Monday. The treasurer's
Wednesday,
away
yeah.
for a few days this week, then she's away for a significant part of next week. And I have to have the warrant done, at your meeting on Wednesday night, with your column anyway, the
Yeah.
recommend column, but, we can certainly ask, I'm just not sure, we're all under the gun. I can, you know, they're gonna have to sit down and
Okay.
calculate that out, I can ask, I'm just,
Well, there must be a formula already in
Where-
place that they used in the.
yeah,
They
maybe
could
there
just
is.
adjust the salaries or.
You know, we were
Audit
talking about
fees.
all the, you know, other costs, you know, out of this office, personnel,
Yep.
and other things that we're not charging back for. We just never
But even
have.
though if that figure has changed, it doesn't enter into any of their calculations. I mean, we'll say if it goes from, you know, 10,000 to 15,000.
That must be in their budget somewhere, because it's an expense to build that we give them, so
Yeah, it's a-
I'm sure it's in their the water budget somewhere. It has to be, because, I mean, other than that, how would they pay for this? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we could pull, I mean, I don't think we need to really pull up the water budget right now, but
Yeah.
we could check that as,
I don't remember seeing it in their
Yeah.
budget.
it might be under, other administrative fees or something that you wouldn't see or understand, because it's not further
I
broken
don't think
down.
I have the water
Now, we've
budget
approved
here.
the water department budget,
Right.
right? So why is this not a line item in the water department budget.
It
Why?
is.
It
It is?
We've
It
approved
is.
So
that.
they gave us a separate
Well, this is
budget?
revenue.
This,
Yeah, it's an informational
Yeah,
table
this
that's
is
at the
revenue.
end that we started putting in, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. The moderator at the time said we should put the revenue table in. But you're voting on,
We're
the
voting
line
on the
item
expenses
budgets.
on the town side. They got it in their budget as an informational thing, saying this is
So
where
when
the
we
revenue
approve
sources.
the water department budget, will
We
we,
did.
with these numbers on?
Yeah, they were
yes,
on
it
there.
it is.
The 72
Yeah.
Well,
nine
but,
was
Yes.
there.
but it was on there as a revenue, not as an expense.
Yeah,
Right.
And they're basing the expense on the bill they're gonna send us. And so
Right.
we're here looking at the hydrant fee as an expense to the town.
the town.
If we vote 50,000, then they have to look back at their budget and say, listen, we're only gonna get 50 instead of 70.
yeah.
72.
Yeah.
So then they would have to make an adjustment on their end.
Or
Wouldn't
shut
affect
down,
us.
shut down hydrants.
Oh,
I
shut-
mean, I don't know,
gotta
I'm
shut
just
down- yeah.
saying, you know,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, if we have a cut in the budget, we have to cut somewhere. If we cut them back and they feel they need it,
Well,
what
they
are
have
they
to
gonna
they have
do?
to just find another revenue source,
Right.
that's all.
That means the rates go up.
It could, and maybe not.
Well, you know,
I mean,
e-
just-
I mean,
either
they gotta,
the-
they gotta.
the
do-
rates or the fees, I don't know to what extent they've maybe adjusted other numbers to not necessarily back into, but to cover
Well,
the
6% reduced.
expenses.
Their budget went down 6%, so
Mhm.
maybe it goes down 4%.
Right.
I mean, it's not a significant budget, a significant number on their end. 'Cause
Right.
they have I don't know, what is it, $2.8 million budget. So 20,000 is
Mhm.
0.01% or something like that.
I guess my thought in this is that this is something the whole town is gonna pay for, fire protection. Whereas if it ups the water rates, only the water rate payers are paying. And I think the whole town should pay for fire protection.
Yeah, the whole
Right,
town,
right.
that is, you know, the people that are on wells, get a reduced, insurance rate based upon the closeness to the fire hydrants and the pressure, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole town is benefiting
Fitting from the fire.
from
hydrant.
that, even
Yes.
though the well people, are not taking the town water.
Right,
So, you know,
so,
it's a good point.
So do we have time to table this until our next meeting?
till
or-
next Wednesday?
Well,
yeah,
I mean, we-
I'll just have.
Especially if there's a chance the water board's gonna do something tonight.
well, even then, if they're talking about,
Reducing. it to
reducing it to 53.4,
Yeah,
that's still not near the 29,000. So, you know, that's a step in the right direction, but it's not there. You know, unless you're wanting to go with the 53.4.
That would be almost 20 less than the 72.9.
Right, but it's still,
But
But if we can get the
20,
backup
we'll
for the
say.
53, then
Yeah.
it is what it is,
it is, yeah.
you know? I just don't see the information
Right.
we have here to back up any of those numbers.
Debbie,
this
do you
point.
know if that was going to be on their agenda to discuss
I do
tonight?
think
Yes.
so.
It
is, yeah,
Yes.
it is.
So,
So
Right.
yes,
we would have an answer then by
Well, we won't
tomorrow,
have an
whether you
answer
send a message
till-
out maybe, or,
I'm sure that Mary
Or
Beth would get back to
Mary
me if
Beth
there was a
could.
change in the budget, because, well, needed anyway for the printing,
Hmm.
but,
because we'd have an answer soon
so
enough.
I can get it to the finance committee, like I said, but we don't have the meeting until Wednesday, which gets me nervous, because
Yeah.
at that point, I gotta wrap everything up fairly soon after that. But,
Can
you know, you can put the number in, you can also change the number on the town meeting floor if you had to. It's just giving the voters due notice of what your position is, you know.
Can we approve something conditionally, Larry?
I don't think so.
But
Additional one.
we really don't, we really need the answers.
So if they
Uh,
revise it, do you want the backup, obviously.
Yeah, to see if they
For the
agree
new-
with, you know,
new amount.
that the math is wrong.
Mhm.
And, you know, and then if they agree on a different or rate, to provide what that rate is so that we can
Okay.
check it.
Well, since this is on the revenue side, even though it is, you know, going against the town, we could approve the 72.9 as for the backup.
And if we make a decision, we could go in to town meeting and lower it where you can't up it. Is the-
Well,
Well-
I wouldn't support that
No.
method.
Because that really, that is kind of conditional if you do that. You're saying if we approve this, and then that's kind of a condition.
Right, I mean,
I'd rather go in with the 36.9 and, well, I guess we can't because then you can't go up from there, but.
well, we have time next Wednesday, and it's just,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
if we
it's just
get
tight,
it,
it's
if we
just
can get
tight,
it,
but
if we can get
let's-
it before, by email or something, we can
Yeah.
each take a look at it. It's a quick vote, I think. It's not anything major. I mean, we're just hung up
Mhm.
on where we need to be, so.
Because even if we went to the 53.4 costs that they wound up going to for fiscal year 16, that's still 50% more than the previous years. But if they can justify
I mean,
that,
Jamie's
then we're fine.
the liaison between the water department and if she wants to meet with Mary Beth
I
and,
will.
and kind of, you know,
Mhm.
relay our concerns and
Yeah.
see if you can get some information and get it back to us, I think, then I would feel more
Okay.
comfortable.
okay.
Make a motion, we table this to Wednesday night.
Okay, have
I'll
a
second that.
motion to table hydrants.
Um,
Did I? I'm not
And
sure if I did or not.
any other comments on
This is
hydrants?
mine. I brought this one.
what is happening?
Oh,
Just if we could get that information on the other end, you know, the accountant stuff. That'd be
Right.
great.
Okay. With the accountant's information as
Treasure,
well.
okay.
All those in favor of tabling the hydrant budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. That was easy. Let's go on to Harbor Master.
yeah, I did have mine. I just found it.
There's nothing in the packet on that. I have an email from the harbor master. And I did forward that to the chairman. He travels for his job. And he's out of the country right now with limited access on network, but he told me that, he has 2 pump-out operators that work on an average of 40 hours per week, combined from May 30th through Labor Day, and then only 16 hours per week till Columbus Day in October. The money I have asked to cover these hours should work, as there will be some bad weather days when there will be no work. Sorry I'm unable to fill out the form.
So what we have is the 40 hours per week for a couple of weeks, plus it goes down to about 16 or less. And he's got 24,765. Does everybody have that? Does nobody have that?
Was that
I
from
don't have
last
mine.
It's from last
Last
week.
week.
Oh.
We asked for an explanation a little bit more on the hours.
So, Larry, what's changing on the budget from last week? The backup on the backup, is that what it is?
It's just, he gave them more detail.
There's pump out boat wages have gone from $1,877 to $8,000. That's the major increase. Everything else is, either on wages, is cost of living, expenses are level funded.
And if I remember from last week, that there's a reimbursement from the
Yes,
state,
that's right.
75%.
It's all tied into the
Yeah.
reimbursement.
Yes.
Right.
I think there's a note at the bottom of the form.
And I think the question was, is that really necessary, or was it just being bumped up to get the 75% back? Or at least that's one of my concerns. And I guess it's
Necessary.
necessary.
Yes. We want those boats pumped out. We don't want them in the river. Make a motion, we approve Harbor Master.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the Harbor Master budget. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. Any other discussion on Harbor Master? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we get into the hard ones. Accounting.
Town accountant.
Right, town accountant. And basically, it's just the cost of living increase, and that's about it.
I'll make a motion that you approve it.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the accounting budget. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Sharon. Any discussion or further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, agriculture. $1,000.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion by Jamie, second by Dennis. Any discussion on agriculture?
No.
Please approve it. I want my garden this year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
The only thing I wish they could find a different way to get the water there. I feel so sorry for the Thurstons with that big hose running across their front lawn.
Yes, they're very tolerant.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, our favorite schools. Does anyone have any discussion on it that we could do anything about?
I guess just the Triton budget will be finalized tomorrow night. They're taking a vote. And I guess these are the latest, these are the latest
Right.
numbers that we got as of last week. So hopefully they go down from here if possible. But the chances are they're probably gonna be at the 488, 138.
Right.
In the Whittier, I think, I was listening to the meeting last night with this additional students
Right.
going there.
I think
Or
five
potentially.
additional students
Yeah.
going there.
How much is it per student?
I think they said it was
About
around
20,
20, wasn't it?
20,000.
20?
They probably just rounded it to 20.
Well, that has gone up significantly just in 2 years, 175,000 to
Sure has.
225, now 325.
It's the
It's
number of
amazing.
students that go.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the school budget?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion on the school budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Veterans.
I'll make a motion to include the veterans.
You have a motion? You have a second?
I will second.
You have a second. Any discussion on the veterans budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Insurance.
Another one we don't have much say in. I make a motion, we approve insurance.
Okay, you have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You have a second. Any
I
discussion?
just have a question, what's cafeteria plan?
That's health.
Yeah, we're required to have that for anyone that's not eligible to participate in the town's health insurance under the Federal Affordable Care Act.
Oh, okay.
So they can save money in a pre-tax manner
Okay,
and then
yeah.
use that towards their premiums that they get off the Health Connector or
Okay,
something.
I understand, I just didn't understand the name.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
we
we also have, it also provides for any employee that wants to save in general for certain medical expenses and things like that.
Okay, I just needed to.
Yep, no, just,
You mean you haven't used the Rowley cafeteria? It's right next to the Rowley weight room and the Rowley lounge.
Is the health up almost 10% because of more employees, or is it just
It's-
increased rates that've gone up almost 10%?
it's actually, the premiums are going up by 6.5%, but we're actually short this fiscal year because open enrollment doesn't happen until May, the budget's already set. But anytime we have a new employee that may come in, it's a very fluid budget, so we may have a new employee that's on the health insurance that we didn't, and they put maybe it's a family plan.
Okay.
So we're finding right now that fiscal 16 short, so once I go to the special town meeting and add in the shortfall, you'll see that that number's actually gonna be 6.5%.
Okay,
It's really not 10%,
okay.
because this year's budget's short, right, at this point.
For
point in time.
fiscal 16.
Fiscal
Yeah.
16 short.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on insurance? All those in favor of ratifying the insurance budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's accepted. Shellfish commissioners. I think, just rounding up for
Yeah.
the wages and expenses, same thing. Okay, you have a motion to accept the shellfish.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion. Have a second.
I'll second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the shellfish? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Cemetery. Why don't you, Dennis, since you're on the task force and everything, give us an update on the cemetery?
Mr. Chairman, as you know, I mean, I know you know, but people might not know that there was a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen, the cemetery commissioners, and the task force on Monday night, last night. And pretty much, there was a lot of discussion on the future of where the cemetery needs to be in regards to the budget. I believe there's a meeting Friday, or we're trying to get a meeting between cemetery commissioners and the task force before next Monday to try to see what their plan is for the budget for FY17. So that hasn't been established yet, so I think that we should probably table this until at least till next week, and hopefully we'll have an answer on where the budget should be at that point.
Okay.
I mean, that's the short part of
Right.
it there. I mean,
It was quite an interesting meeting.
it was. I mean, it's not something that we all like to do, but I mean, there was a task force established by the Board of Selectmen, and, we are working closely with the cemetery commissioners to try to, get things back in line and try to, establish, I guess, a way to have the cemetery function according to all laws and regulations of the Commonwealth. So it's not easy, but we'll get there at some point.
Right, well, the joint meeting that you're gonna have, and I know it's the commissioner's responsibility to come up with the budget, but will they have a budget by next week?
Well, I mean, they're the only ones that would know that. I think, irregardless of whether they come up with a budget or not, then it would be our job, and probably the task force would probably have a recommendation to the finance committee and to the board of selectmen as to what the budget should be, at least until
The budget being, we'll say, an amount of money set aside
yeah.
that would theoretically cover the material and labor for running the cemetery at least for
Till-
the next 6
Yeah.
months till another town meeting.
I mean, I would guess that it would be level funded until such time that the task force and the cemetery commissioners agree to the final outcome as to how the structure of the cemetery department would be. And whatever that is, and we know that that number will be different from the level funding budget that we have here, that would need to be brought up probably at the special town meeting in the fall to make any adjustments
Right.
up or down from there. So I think it's a work in progress. Hopefully, we can agree to a resolution. Not sure that we can, but we're hoping that we can. I believe we can. And again, whether we put 20,000 or, I think the recommendation would be that we would level fund it if we can't come to some agreement. So at least we can have the cemetery operate until such point as the final structure is established.
Okay.
So I think we'll have an answer by
Yeah,
next
it
week.
would get us from July to November.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, it's, at last night's meeting, there is, the commissioners can come up with a plan for operating, so the cemetery is gonna continue operating, not the way that it was, but it'll continue to operate. And there's,
Yeah, there's still gonna be
Backup
labor,
plans.
there's still gonna be laborers there, whether they're, it's not the
Right.
commissioners anymore, there's still gonna be laborers that have to dig the graves and,
right, the
And
graves will
machine.
be dug,
yeah, and the
and,
cemetery will be cut
Property
and-
maintained.
and it will
Right.
And
be
the
maintained, so it's,
spring maintenance and stuff needs
yeah,
to be done.
that's all gonna be done.
right,
It's a charge that the cemetery commissioners know that it's their duty to maintain the cemetery, so it's their job to figure out how to make the adjustments so that it conforms to the
okay.
laws and the opinion of the town council.
So you're recommending, Dennis, that we level fund it from last year
I'm
or
not,
wait?
I'm not recommending that we level fund at this point. I wanna see what the cemetery commissioners come back with.
Okay, after
We
the
might
meeting
need to
next
make an
week.
adjustment. If we can make an adjustment that is agreeable, then, we
We'll
could
vote
do it
next
now.
week.
If we can't, then, we have the option to just
Mhm.
fall back on level funding.
The selectmen didn't vote on the budget, did,
No, I don't believe so. I don't think they did. They
No.
tabled it, I believe,
right,
so.
So
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table the cemetery.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion on the cemetery?
No.
Okay, the motion is, the budget is tabled till next week, our next meeting schedule, which is next Wednesday at 7:15.
Where is the meeting on Tuesday? Upstairs?
Pine
Oh,
Grove.
Pine Grove, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I
Uh,
will make-
The town
Okay,
meeting articles, is that on the agenda? Is that there for any reason?
Because I was thinking I was,
Okay.
go.
at the
Thought you'd
time-
be ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought I'd be ahead of myself on that, and I'm still working.
Okay,
so
all right, so we don't need that.
Wednesday, next Wednesday.
So we'll meet next Wednesday.
Right, 7:15. Okay, have a motion from Jamie to adjourn. Do I have a
I'll
second? Second by Paul. Any other discussion on why we shouldn't adjourn? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And thank you and good night.